So we all know the AAA gaming industry is suffering massively right now. We know that, you know that, they know that, and the AAA gaming industry is suffering for a multitude of reasons. It's not just wokeness, it's not just greed, it's a combination of everything. But apparently now we have an article and an interview with the former PlayStation boss who says the reliance on AAA blockbusters is going to be a death sentence for the gaming industry. And I gotta say, I agree with him to an extent.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Now, again, guys, the AAA gaming industry is not doing very well, but the problem is that they just don't want to actually listen to feedback. They don't actually want to learn as to the reasons why people are upset with them. People are not buying games like they used to. And for some reason, you're going to have people out there try to blame, oh, times are hard, there's a recession, blah, blah, blah. When it's been a proven fact that during a recession, people spend more money on entertainment than they do when there isn't a recession. So that's never been a good excuse, especially when it comes to gaming that gives you plenty of content to utilize for your $60 versus spending $70 and going to a theater to watch a movie for 2 hours. So let's get into this article, guys, from The Gamer. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So we got some key takeaways. The creativity of developers had been brushed aside in favor of easy monetization options. I agree. We're going to talk about it. The AA market is being squeezed out of existence by rising development costs. I don't know if I agree with this. If the industry continues to march down this path, it could be a death sentence. I agree with that. So again, experts and industry professionals have been voicing this concern for years. The ballooning cost of game development is pushing the industry down a dark road. On this road, publishers are only willing to fund low-risk derivative blockbusters with a wealth of monetization options rather than cultivating the creativity that spawn all of these highly successful IPs in the first place. So here's the thing that a lot of these websites like to do, right? Gamer, Kotaku, and whatnot. They like to shift the blame away from the developers and shift the blame away from the ideology and the actions of the developers, and they like to put it on the greed of the corporation. They like to put it onto the greed of the studio or the publisher or whatever, and they like to say, well, you know, the developers would have loved to be creative and make interesting characters, but unfortunately they had to do XYZ because of live service. They had to do XYZ because of loot boxes and stuff. And while that is true, there are issues that are 100% there when you talk about monetization practices and how predatory some of them can be. At the end of the day, one of the biggest issues in the AAA gaming industry right now is the fact that developers have their heads in their asses. The developers have their heads in the sand. They refuse to listen to feedback, and they try to call all feedback that isn't agreeing with them absolute bigotry. That's what they tried to do. They tried to call it racism, transphobia, sexism, bigotry, blah, blah, blah. They don't want to listen to the people who could actually buy their product. They rather listen to the people who they had to give their product for free in order to get good feedback. It is ridiculous. It is such a weird fucking circle jerk of life, and yet they continue to do it over and over and over again, and then they wonder why their games are not selling. Then it says Sean Layden spoke on this topic during a fireside chat at Gamescom Asia thanks to Game Industry Biz, saying that the entry cost for making a AAA game is a triple-digit millions now. I think naturally risk tolerance drops, and you're looking at sequels, you're looking at copycats, because the finance guys who draw the line say, well, if Fortnite made this much money in this amount of time, my Fortnite knockoff can make this in this amount of time. We're seeing a collapse of creativity in games today with studio consolidation and the high cost of production. I think that overall, the actual death of creativity in gaming has a multitude of reasons, and it's not just from monetary practices. It's not just from predatory monetization. It is simply from developers that don't want to actually be creative. It's from developers that think that being creative is how many rainbow flags they can put into a character. They think being creative is coming out the gate, and instead of telling you about the character story and backstory and their character arc, they think that the best, most creative thing they could do is tell you who the character sleeps with. This is a big issue in the gaming industry, and nobody is talking about it because they're all scared to be canceled. They've all been brought up in this echo chamber where everybody has to agree with everything being said. Otherwise, you're considered toxic, and you don't want to be one of the chuds, right? You don't want to be classified as a chud. You don't want to be thrown to the wolves with the rest of the chuds, right? And they keep doing this to try to foster an environment where everybody's just going to say what they want to hear so that they can keep pushing out the same nonsense and keep, losing money. It's the weirdest fucking thing, but this is where we keep ending up. Layden was formerly chairman of Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios and is currently a strategic advisor for Chinese giant Tencent. He goes on to say that the AA market has been squeezed as a result of these industry shifts, and the financial barrier to entry is so high that you're either a bootstrapping indie or a AAA studio. So when it comes to AA games, I'm seeing a lot of really good AA games show up lately, and it's right at that sweet spot of where they're not spending enough money to be considered AAA, but they're also putting in enough investment and they're putting in enough time, creativity, and effort because they have to, right? They don't automatically have that AAA budget that's going to keep them comfortable and safe, so they have to rely on creativity and actually making an effort in order for them to get any sort of return on what's not considered a AAA game. It's bad enough most AAA games don't get the level of advertisement. Most AA games don't get the level of advertisement that AAA games do, but still, it doesn't mean AA games can't do well. Look at Helldivers. I think Helldivers 2 was considered a AA game, and it was a massive, massive success, at least in the beginning anyway, until the community managers fucking ruined it. In the gaming business, you have the Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, indie stuff, but then that middle piece, that middle layer that used to be where Interplay, Gremlin, Ocean, THQ, all those companies made their money, that middle piece is gone, Layden said. If you can become AAA, you survive, or if you do something interesting in the indie scene, you could, but AA is gone. I don't think AA is gone. I think that that's a threat to the ecosystem, if you will. I don't think AA is gone at all. I think AA is going to show its face again, and they're continuing to make video games that will, give the gamers what they want, since the AAA gaming scene isn't giving gamers what they want. Nobody cares about being AAA if the AAA gaming scene is ignoring everybody who's trying to buy their products. So that's where AA comes into play. That's where indie comes into play. It's not true in all cases, as we've seen a couple of breakout hits this year that are considered AA. There's Helldivers 2 by Arrowhead Studios and Palworld by Pocket Pair. Exactly, Palworld was AA, and Palworld was so goddamn successful, they, essentially became a AAA studio just based off their success. There's the lower budget games that found big audiences. However, there is a definite reluctance among financiers who fund creative high-risk games, something that Layden finds regretful. Now, if we could just get a bit more interest and excitement and exposure for those lower budget, but super creative and super unusual type of games. I'd like to see more of that, because if we're just going to rely on these blockbusters to get us through, I think that's a death sentence. So again, guys, I agree with this for the most part. AAA gaming scene is absolutely going the way of the dodo, and it's all their fault at the end of the day, man. If these people would get their heads out their asses and start listening to feedback from people who actually play and buy games, they might be able to make some decisions that will be beneficial to their company. But no, unfortunately for us, the AAA gaming scene thinks they know everything, the gaming industry thinks they know everything, and they just don't want to ever listen to what the gamers say, because that would be rewarding toxic behavior, at least in their worldview. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.